But we all suffer situations that have not been fair, that we've been hurt, injured, disappointed, and that impact us, hurt deeply. And the question then comes is, how do we heal from that hurt? And how do we, and why is there injustice in the world in the first place? And how could a caring, loving God allow things like this to happen? And then, of course, how can we even forgive when things like that happen to us? I think the answer to those questions starts with asking one other question, which is, what's the purpose of my existence? Why am I here? Why was I even created? I think we have to start with that point. And we realize that we were each created basically to glorify God. That's why we're here. And we are His sons and daughters. He loves us, cares for us, but we are here to glorify Him. And so all that goes through in this life, this existence, is to accomplish that purpose in His great plan for us. Not just to glorify Him, but in that process, it glorifies us and brings us more joy and happiness in our own lives. How is that done? I believe that the essence of God's Spirit, the fundamental foundational core elements of God, is light, truth, love, goodness. All of those are the essence of God's Spirit. And I believe that He's given a spark of His divinity to each one of us. So we have all of those elements inside of us as part of our core essence as well. As we live in this existence, then, the goal, objective is for us to use our agency that God has given us to choose to accept that light, love, truth, goodness more than reject it. And as we do that, then more love, light, truth, goodness exists in the universe, which glorifies God as well as us in the process. And so that is partially why He created this earth and this phase of existence, if you will, is to help accomplish that opportunity for us to make those choices to develop more love and light and truth and goodness in the universe. But we can't really develop that and do that without experiencing God's love Himself. It all comes from Him and through Him that we're able to develop that spark of divinity inside us. So as we go through life, we make our own mistakes. We are imperfect beings. We're all mixed bags. And so as we experience those situations where we disappoint ourselves, we then realize that we are dependent upon God's grace, as well as the grace and goodness of others as well, if we are to have any hope. And without hope, there is no joy. So as we turn to God and invite Him into our heart, He then is able to fill our heart with His love through His grace, which heals our soul, and in the process, it empowers us to be able to forgive other people. And in that process, we then are able to become more like God. Because without experiencing God's grace in our life, we would not then be empowered or be able to extend that same grace to other people. And in that process, without that, we would not be able to develop that characteristic of becoming more like God. So this imperfect world exists for a purpose. And it helps us to be able to develop ourselves becoming more like God in the process of us experiencing His love as well. Now, because we all have a spark of God's divinity in us, we all have a basic innate need to love and to be loved. Because God is love, so if that's part of us, then that's part of our character, it's part of our nature. But we live in an imperfect world, raised by imperfect parents, and we're imperfect parents raising our kids. And so all of us have been disappointed by those that we relied on for love. That disappointment creates a void in our life, in our being, that demands to be filled. I call them emotional black holes that suck us down, that pull us down, and creates problems in our lives because it overtly is controlling our life. And so what happens is, how that happens, in my opinion, is that it creates three basic fears. Fear first is fear of abandonment or rejection, which is a fear of losing love, the fear of the loss of love. And which comes because no parent is a perfect parent, so the child growing up is disappointed and then fears losing that love throughout the rest of his life, unless that fear is addressed and overcome. The other fear is fear of not being valued, which comes basically very closely related to the first fear, but also comes in homes where kids are put down or made to feel worthless, or in the opposite extreme, those where the parents are, demanding their kids be high achievers, be the best, pitcher, be the best, get straight A's, do whatever it is, and so the kids feel that they are not valued for themselves. The other thing that happens is fear is a fear of basically losing control or lack of control, which comes because individuals feel that the hurt and the void in their life that was created from the lack of love was created because their little child didn't control their environment. So, doggone it, going forward, I'm going to control everything. And so they become control freaks as they, let that fear control and govern their life. And as it continues to grow and get out of bounds. The other thing that happens is because we feel this void in our life, we feel like something's missing. Something's missing in our life. So we anxiously strive to fill that void with various things. It's kind of like going through life, experiment with different things to fill the void. And some people try to fill it with destructive things such as drugs, alcohol, things of that nature that just destroy their lives. Other people try to use good things, but they take it to an excess, to where it becomes a stumbling block. It comes out of balance. Good things, even religion, carried to an extreme, all of a sudden becomes a negative. And it's like a circle. You go too far, now you're on the backtrack going backwards. But as we go through all these dealing with all these issues of trying to figure out how to fill that void in our life that subconsciously is controlling more of our actions than we really want to admit, that void does two things. One, it creates the environment to where sin exists, where we take things to extremes or out of balance, whether even good things, necessary things, eating. You take it to an extreme, become a glutton. It's just anything positive taken to an extreme or gone out of the realms that is God's established becomes a sin and becomes something negative in our life and the lives of the people we influence. And the other thing, so it creates the environment for sin as well as the enticement of sin. Something I'm going to fill this void, want to escape from this gnawing problem that's haunting me. And so that's why people try to escape through the drugs or the alcohol or things to numb the hurt that they feel. But that void does something else as well. I believe that void also creates the drive to seek God, or creates the quest to find God.